to be someone who is perceiving or positioning himself as kind of becoming a global leader in in the problem space that he or she are trying to solve. Okay, and this should be the belief. If you have 20 more folks trying to solve it, and this is the 21st solution to that, which is more of the same, in theory, it might be a success, but it's not that exciting, right? You want to see some kind of unique approach, some novel solution, which leads to the fact that typically when we're looking at founding team, you want to see one strong individual who's coming from, let's call it the problem space, familiar with the problem, its depth, it's realistically, not just conceptually.
Yep.
And at the same time, the other co-founder should be someone who's ideally coming from the solution space, i.e. the tech familiarity, knowing kind of what's going to work, what's not going to work, how to apply it.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. 20-Minute Leaders is a proud supporter of Make-A-Wish Israel and Tech to Peace, and is in proud collaboration with Secret Chord Ventures, J Ventures, Riverside FM, Fusion VC, Birthright Excel, J Impact, Leap, Google for Startups, and Hippo, and in media partnership with CTech. Yair Snir, thank you for joining me for 20-Minute Leaders. Not trivial times, but there's always a great time for some inspiration and to relive a journey, and especially one as awesome as yours. So thank you very much for joining me.
Gladly. Thank you.
Wonderful. Tell me a little bit about, where you grew up, who were you growing up? Obviously today you're with Dell Capital and investments, and you have quite an amazing career underneath you, but tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
So, it's funny. I grew up in a place, so to begin with, when I was a young student, I was not a very successful one. At some point, kind of the teacher asked my mom, maybe we should find kind of an alternative plan for him, because effectively I was behaving well and everything, but I was just not into studying. I was not into writing, I was not into reading, I was bored. And at some point, I think it was in the 5th grade or so, something is completely, and I don't know why and how, but it's kind of 180 degrees change. And ever since, I've started taking things so seriously, and kind of, there was, as a young child, very young child, there was kind of a first lesson that kind of, do never underestimate your ability to kind of push yourself forward, okay? Do not let others kind of pull you back. And, fast forward 10, 15 years and even more, later in my, first was the military service and then career and everything, studies and everything kind of, I kind of learned to realize that no is not a bad sign. Actually, it's a challenge. It's an opportunity. I'm not saying that every no evolved to becoming a yes, but effectively when I'm looking at the key success points along my career, the common denominator to most of them, or the great majority of them, was that it began with a no. That's not going to happen. We're not going to succeed. It's unlikely to happen. You're doomed to fail. Whatever. And apparently some of those things did succeed. So the bottom line is to trust yourself, believe in your way, and be stubborn with yourself. I'm not saying not to listen to the other person's feedback, but kind of, if you think that you're doing the right thing, just do it.
And what things were you particularly curious about, during these times? So the no's that you received and the different, what were the elements that you really were convicted on, that paths that you wanted to walk?
I think that kind of, in our profession, we're a VC, right? So we're looking for good investment that eventually would yield good returns, right? Good financial returns. And with that kind of concept, and, all in all, from different angles, colors, and shades, I've been doing it for so-called like almost 17 years now. It's always the mix of how big the problem that those genius folks want to solve and the quality of the team. You know, effectively, we're an early stage investor, right? We're leading early stage rounds, seed and A. And for us, this is the thing, right? You want to see a team with the spark, with the capabilities, with the chutzpah, with the belief that they were able to go through walls, acknowledging what they know as well as what they're missing, which is completely okay. No one should know everything, but you should know that you don't know if you don't know and what you don't know. So far, it's been working remarkably, you know. So we're kind of we're finding it hard to let go of that paradigm as long as it works.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about Dell Technologies Capital. Obviously, all of us know Dell. You and I have gotten to engage a little bit, and for me to get to know a little bit about your work, and I think it's really amazing. And you have work all around the world, but you're particularly focused on Israel and Europe. Tell me a little bit about this group, its connection to Dell, and what you're particularly doing.
So I'd say that it's a pretty unique team in the sense that, you know, it's a founder-led team. So Michael Dell effectively owns and runs it, okay? We're doing the early stage investment, tech investment on his behalf. So we're headquartered in the Bay Area with also offices in Boston and Tel Aviv. We're leading very early stage rounds, okay? Where we post the investment, we will work very intensively, closely with the team, do whatever we can to help, support, and for them to succeed and for us to be fortunate for being part of it. And, you know, it's a unique model in the sense that it's structured like a single LP fund. And to that extent, we have more flexibility and option to run it the way it should be, unlike the way that it usually is, where you have various constraints, etc. So if we're seeing something interesting, we would invest. At least we try to invest. We don't have any pressure to overinvest, i.e. invest in cases that we don't think or we don't want because there's kind of fun to run and the urge to deploy capital. So it's pretty flat model. On the other hand, which is also good in my opinion, we're being measured only by DPI. So effectively dollars in, dollars out, okay? Not on the paper, not conceptually, not theoretically, not in the future, at any given moment. How much physical dollars we've invested, how much physical dollars we've returned. And kind of that cleans out the model, and it also adds more, I'd say, rationality into the dynamics with the team, okay? We're not pushing them to go with insane valuations. We're not pushing them to fundraise when they know they don't need funds. We can invest in as much as we think and as much as needed. Kind of life is very simple for us. The good news, the challenging, which also good news to me, is that we need to deliver. We need to show physical, real results rather than, you know, paperwork and other, let's call it synthetic parameters. So that kind of keeps our life very simple and very focused on what success looks like and what we're trying to achieve or help our founders achieve. And the founders and the team, those are the people who are building the companies, not us. Let's be realistic. But we're there to do whatever we can to help and support them and be there for them. And you know, it's been a great fun. It's a lot of work. These are not always happy moments because this is real life, but this is the meaning of you know, this engagement, this partnership.
So you know, doubling down on this question of the structure of the fund that you chose to be a significant part of. You're mentioning the dynamic between the simple nature of the fund, but with the responsibility that comes with it, and with the added layer of measurability, perhaps, or the realism behind what this represents. You know, how does this impact the types of companies you're looking at, the way that you're looking at companies in these early stages? How does it shape your engagement level in your considerations, rather than perhaps a more traditional multi-LP fund where you generally have the traditional fund structure of raising fund after fund?
It effectively has two aspects, or two meanings, so-called. A, we need to do good investments, right? And just to be clear, we're not being measured for our investment, we're being measured for our returns at the end of the day. So this is point number one. Point number two, given the fact that we're leading early stage rounds, the underlying assumption should be that, hey, we're going to be working together very tightly, and hence There needs to be good chemistry. There needs to be kind of mutual motivation to engage beyond the money. And these are kind of the two key aspects that are being taken into consideration when we were exploring and investing.
Makes sense. Okay, so within the investment world, I guess there are areas where you're more particularly curious in, especially from your background in Microsoft and different organizations. What do you find yourself more leading into? Either from a type of leadership of entrepreneur or type of company, type of problem that they're solving?
I think that it should be both. Okay, sorry for there might not be satisfying answer, but I think that it has to be a combination. A leader is literally is a leader.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it means that it needs to be at the same time someone leading the venture and doing whatever changes and accommodations needed, down the road. And at the same time, it needs to be someone who is perceiving or positioning himself as kind of becoming a global leader in the problem space that he or she are trying to solve. Okay, and this should be the belief. If you have 20 more folks trying to solve it, and this is the 21st solution to that, which is more of the same, in theory it might be a success, but it's not that exciting, right? You want to see some kind of unique approach, some novel solution, which leads to the fact that typically when we're looking at founding team, you want to see one strong individual who's coming from, let's call it the problem space, familiar with the problem, its depth, it's realistically, not just conceptually.
Yep.
And at the same time, the other co-founder should be someone who's ideally coming from the solution space, i.e. the tech familiarity, knowing kind of what's going to work, what's not going to work, how to apply it, kind of this mix. Again, given the type of the individual, should kind of bring the company to crack it,
And are there particular problems or particular types of problems that you're personally interested in? Obviously, at the end, it's a very personal dynamic. You mentioned that, yes, you need to make good investments, you need to choose good companies and good leaders, but ultimately you need to also choose the ones that you're going to work well with and you're going to support. And from what I hear, you're also very intentional in the support that you provide the founders and the companies that you back. So what problems do you think are ones that you particularly want to work on?
So I'm glad for the way that you've kind of defined the question, because effectively, to your point, we are looking for teams solving a real problem or real pain. Not something kind of that's going to be nice to have, that's complementary. No, a real painful problem. And these problems would typically, you have various spaces. I would say it goes into the space of either solving a procedural issue, i.e. there's currently a process, but it's ineffective, it's too much capital demanding, it takes too long, or it's too complicated to solve it. So these are interesting approaches, and to resonate with that, you have AI, ML, and all of these technologies or science behind it that should enable, at least address some of it. And I believe that it's going to be a growing portion of it's going to be addressed and solved by these advanced technologies. And you have what we call infrastructural challenges, okay, in the DevOps space, in the cybersecurity space, many areas where there's an opportunity for a novel tech approach to disrupt the way things work or don't work today to enable that, okay? So these are this is a rough mapping of the issues that we're trying to address, or that we're trying to have our entrepreneurs addressing more precisely. And these would be in today's reality, organizations that need to deal with internal procedures, like it can be legal, it can be finance, it can be auditing, it can be in the R&D space. There are multiple processes there. The larger the companies are, the less efficient they are. The larger the workloads there are, the less possible it is to address it with existing technologies. So we're looking for someone to go through that and enable kind of novel capabilities. And same goes for the infrastructure or the enablement world, where we see kind of unique technologies from unique approaches trying to mitigate on the lack of ability, lack of resources, lack of visibility to enable a breakthrough there. These are kind of, I'd say, these are the type of things. It can apply to AI ML. It can apply to the modern data stack, where obviously there's a vast realization that, you know, in a matter of time, unless you're going to be data driven, it would be very hard for you to survive as a business. And given the competition and everything, so you need to have unique approaches there, how to store your data, how to manage it, and how to utilize it. Is much easier said than done. And you need, you know, other areas that are also of high interest would be, you know, those what we call unique breakthroughs in the way people are doing business, okay? And that applies to go-to-market approaches, to managing your sales organization, your finance organization, with all the new metrics, with all the kind of, for many years, there's been kind of acceptance or willingness, let's call it, to accept blindness, i.e. not realizing, not really understanding what's going on within your organization. I think that, again, coupled with the macroeconomic environment that we're living in, it's becoming kind of impossible, okay? There's as much that you can do without fully realizing and understanding what's going on within your organization. And I think that this is one of the major issues and problems for medium to large organizations these days. It's hard to effectively know what's really going on unless you're going to be utilizing kind of advanced technologies. Same go, you know.
So it sounds
just
it sounds like a pretty, you know, the way that you're thinking about it is you've articulated a few pillars from unique perspective into the problems to the founding team, the unique perspective on the problem space from one of the founders to a probable and unique novel solution from other parties, or perhaps the same founder and other parties in the founding team. You're looking for novel, unique approaches technologically that are in emerging spaces that are relevant, obviously, to the times that we're in these crazy revolutions. And you've outlined a few of those spaces: ML, data stack, tech stack, and cybersecurity. But then that's not enough. It actually needs to also have a significant impact on workflows and a significant ability to integrate into these workflows and be an impactful catalyst within organizations for adoption. And so there's that sort of the business aspect of the product. And so it sounds like did I capture those three elements that we've outlined here?
Yeah, absolutely. Do we have 1 or 2 more minutes? Because I'd like to kind of
course,
put a light on a different yet relevant topic. So with that in mind, kind of we discussed mapping processes and doing everything. Let's take it, with your permission, to a slightly different world of reality. In today's unfortunate reality here, which is kind of a stress test for all of us. Unfortunately, we didn't choose it, but it is what it is, and we're dealing with it.
Yep.
Again, and startups are not large enterprises, so there's still more ability to map everything and know what's going on. This is kind of part of the privilege of working with relatively early stage companies. Obviously, today, some of our companies are early stage, some of them have matured and we're definitely no longer early growth, and they're far beyond it. When things happened here, we kind of took very immediate action, okay? Call it a manual action. We kind of mapped, we did kind of, I'd say, kind of a matrix. We tried to analyze what's going to happen, think of it like a 3x3 matrix, okay? Assuming the things would continue the way they are for short time, call it a month or so, assuming things would continue the way they are, call it for 6 months or so, which is a long period, and assuming things, unfortunately, potentially escalate, right, becoming even worse, and you know, with all the possible threats all around us. And for each of these scenarios, we've kind of try to define what are the short-term aspects, mid-term aspects, and long-term aspects. And for each of these quadrants, kind of, we mapped the key processes, okay? We've reprioritized, wherever it was needed. We've mapped the key resources within these processes, okay? Human capital, funds, whatever you can think of, okay? And kind of build a contingency plan, okay, for what if, okay, what's needed, what needs to be prepared ahead of time, HR redundancy, process continuity, business continuity, customers, anything you can imagine, right? Again, in line with the company's status. What are we willing to kind of sacrifice for the sake of other things to continue working efficiently and normally as much as possible, including unique budget allocations and all that stuff, okay? So kind of that shows you, in an ideal world, you would have technology that kind of maps it and does it for you, but given its absence, we had to do it manually. Pretty quick, by the way, I have to say. It didn't take more than a few days. Obviously, none of us has expected it. It caught us all by surprise. Nevertheless, it was pretty successful. You know, it also, again, it was not the intent, but when you're doing such an analysis, it kind of sharpens your understanding. Kind of, it crystallizes the priorities on what's really critical. Kind of, it pushes you into the situation where you need to make decisions that otherwise you might have not been taken or not at this point. So actually, there's also something positive about the process. And, you know, there are derivatives for that, right? You need to manage the interface with the customers, what you're saying and what you're not saying. You need to manage the interface with your investors, mainly foreign investors, right? Making sure that they realize that we're on top of things. Everything is being managed. We're not just being driven or you know, pushed to that event, kind of. And that was kind of high priority. And obviously, in parallel, as a team, we're a partnership, right? We had to fully communicate with our partners, kind of letting them, as soon as like Saturday afternoon, hey, here's what's going on, or at least that's how we understand it for now. These are the implications. Here's what we're going to do. Everything is under control. And I think that this is kind of critical in these days, not only to do the right things, but also don't assume that if we're okay in dealing with it, people out there, outside, realize and acknowledge it, okay? Not because they don't want, but honestly, if you're not here, it's not really realistic to expect others to understand what's going on and how things are being addressed. And I think that this is a message that at least some companies should be taken into consideration. You know, the past 2 to 3 years have been unbelievable in terms of you know, the changes that we've all of us had to go through. We had the COVID, we had post-COVID, we had things here locally with our governmental issues, then there's the war, there's going to be a new era, the post-war, which unfortunately we're not there yet, but that would pose new challenges as well. So kind of in today's reality, the amount of changes and flexibility required from entrepreneurs, founding teams, employees is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I think, again, unfortunate situations and circumstances, but I do think that it really strengthens and put the companies in a position to plan in a smarter way, in a way that not only reacts to crisis time, but also to market changes, to customer preference change, to everything, okay? Kind of this unique flexibility protocols muscle, I believe, would be a good core competence that would enable a lot of companies to grow further and go beyond themselves.
And it sounds like the circumstances that you're articulating here and this need to be more adaptive, more resilient, more flexible, it shines light on those that fulfill perhaps that fulfill better the things that you're looking for in these types of these types of companies, and weeding out those that are really of excellence. And so, Yair, I really want to thank you for joining me. This was wonderful.
Thank you. So really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Perspective. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Take care, my friend. Thank you.